Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. Do you smell that? It's like a cross between cheap cologne and sadness.
Thank you, disembodied hot girl voice. This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. I am Ernie.
And I am Robert. Last I checked.
Well, hopefully you checked. And we're here to expand your brainiac knowledge of all things nerd in the nerd world. We have an exciting show for you guys to listen to us talk and ramble and argue about things that probably don't mean much.
They mean something to somebody, but just not mostly to anybody. Hey, do you think we like Pinky in the Brain, and who would be Pinky?
I think you'd be Pinky.
Really? I'd be Pinky Suavo.
No.
Oh, come on. You'd be Brainy Suavo. There wasn't a Brainy Suavo, was there?
No.
Brain never got the girls, though. Pinky always did.
Wait, didn't he fall for a girl, but it wasn't a girl? It was like
puppet.
Yeah, it was a puppet.
Yes, that's correct. There's one of those weird crossover. Remember those weird crossover episodes they used to have?
Yes.
And they would, like, the different people would be the one where the singing cat, who's actually a singer in real life. Like, she did musicals and stuff. I forgot who she was. She was somebody famous who's, like, done other musicals and, like, really cool things. It's like, why is she doing this? And it's like, well, because it's Animaniacs. How can you go wrong? My kids love it, actually. Which, actually, this all brings us to the point of today's show.
Which is?
Nostalgia and revisiting nostalgia in all its current glorious forms. There's a lot of nostalgia out there, and that's kind of the episode. We're going to talk about movies that they remade, movies that they're going to remake. We're going to talk about all the old stuff that brings about nostalgia. We're going to talk about a little bit, and I found this kind of interesting, the brain chemistry of nostalgia, if you will. Talk about nerdy.
That is pretty nerdy, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. But one of the first things, obviously, that we have to talk about, and spoiler alert, is, of course, the newest movie. Well, quote-unquote newest. It's not that old, right?
No, it's only a couple weeks out.
Okay. Sadly, not doing very well.
No. But go ahead, say it. You're building it up.
Yes, because of so many nostalgic feelings people had towards the original. And while this does play some homage to the original, it is not the same movie. It just isn't.
Correct.
So, that being, of course, The Dragon Invisible. If you ever watch it in Spain, it's called The Dragon Invisible.
I was in Spain when I saw it.
You weren't?
I was.
Oh, you were? Oh, there you go. You see? And it says El Dragon de Invisible, or whatever you say it. So, Pete's Dragon was a great movie of the time when it came out in 1977.
Was it a great movie? Because
here's why. Here's why. And again, if you're just watching as a kid, it's fun because of a giant dragon, invincible friend. It hits upon the biggest thing and I don't know if you had one. Did you have a imaginary friend growing up?
No.
Did you play with stuffed animals or toys and make them come to life?
Yes.
Okay, same difference. I didn't have an imaginary friend either, but I did do a lot of dolls and stuffed animals and toys, minifigs, and made them come to life. Yeah, I had Jeffrey. Do you remember Jeffrey, the boy doll?
No.
It was a doll for boys. Look that up. It was a real thing. I think it was Hasbro or Tyco or one of them. It was a toy for boys. Anywho, the point of it being was that it hit upon a common thing for people is that imaginary friend you had, especially if you're a single kid. Touched on some very sad things of being an orphan, how you can survive in the world being an orphan. It also hit upon a very important subject of alcoholism and how to recover. And the very important restoration of the world's... dang it, I had a point. I was going to make it. It was going to be so eloquent, and then it just faded. You see that?
Yeah.
See it? Lighthouses. Restoring the glory of a past era for our lighthouses. That's nostalgia right there. That's like core America, right?
Sure.
No?
My thing about Pete's Dragon is, let's put it in context. Me being of the age when the movie came out, I remember the advertisement for it.
Being of an age, what does that mean? You were old?
I would have been like 4 when it came out.
Oh, Okay. Oh, see, yeah, I didn't see it when it first ran either. I wasn't even born. Well, no, yeah, I wasn't even born. It was a year before I was born.
So, I remember it coming out, and I don't remember seeing it in the theater, but I remember seeing it, I would say, on VHS in the early 80s.
Right.
And that's because being on military bases, one of the things they have at the libraries is they have the VHS checkouts, and they had all the Disney titles.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
So that was one of them, and what drew my attention to it was the fact that it was live action and it was a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was pretty cool. They've done that a bunch.
Yes, because they did it in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. They did it in all. What was it? The one with the Don Knotts and he becomes a fish.
Yes. Oh, the Fantastic World of Mr. Something or other?
Mr. Lipstick?
Yeah, Lipsit. Yeah, that's the one with what. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. There was also another one. What was the one that was like real and then animated at the same time in that same?
It was the one with Tom and Jerry.
Of course, Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins. Tom and Jerry did one too.
Yes.
With
Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So at the time, to me, that's what captured my imagination. Now,
sure, yeah, it was a great concept.
Yeah, the movie itself, it had a couple songs in it, and I know like the whole premise was this kid had like a dragon that only he could see, and this guy wanted to take the dragon and chop it up and sell it.
Yes, awful, right?
Yeah, I mean that is awful, but to me,
very adult.
Yeah. Now, from my understanding, this is a reboot, so it's like a feral kid who his friend is a real dragon.
Well, to be fair, it was a real dragon in Pete's the original as well.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know if it's his imagination making the dragon come to life. Because remember, he's invisible most of the time, and like stuff is like moving around everywhere and things like that.
Yeah, but other people see him. The father sees him.
After the boy convinces him that he's real.
And the mother... So you're thinking that the boy is magical and the dragon doesn't really exist at all?
That he created the dragon. That's just my...
That's pushing it, but I can see...
That's me being meta.
You being meta?
Yeah.
Is meta a thing? Still?
I could be meta.
You're meta? I don't think that's a good thing for you to be, though.
So, to me, like, yeah, it's out there. It's in the world. It exists. I mean, I never saw a commercial, new from the vault, Pete's Dragon. Like, who was clamoring for this? And there's one thing to be nostalgic. Like, maybe it's not like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks where it was like a decent story because it had a little bit of everything in it.
Yeah, yeah.
This was just like, it was one of those, I don't know, I guess it was like, oh, what kind of movie can we make that go straight to VHS?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's really the thing for me is, again, I thought it had some decent points to it. I liked the movie. I thought it was kind of cool. It was of an era where that was kind of the thing, where live animation and stuff, so for that point it was good. But it's really about reboots and nostalgia. And one of the interesting things about nostalgia is that it plays on the emotions. And it's really a combination of triggers that bring back the nostalgia. And there's a couple of people who've done research on this. And what's interesting, when you have either a sense of despair or something bad happens, you're more likely to be nostalgic for past and put it through an extra layer of, if you quote non-psychological, but a rose filter because of your current negative mental state. So, and it's interesting because they say that at least everybody is nostalgic at least a few times a month, and more often than that, more than once a week. That's kind of interesting. And then the older they are, it becomes longing rather than just pure nostalgia. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So when you think of the movies of that time, what are you really thinking about? Is it really those movies, or is it really the time, or is it how you were at that point?
Well, like this movie that you saw, Pete's Dragon.
Yes.
Would you say that kind of filled that whole nostalgic for Pete's Dragon? Because it's not even the same story, right?
No, but what it is interesting is what I thought was interesting about it was what time frame does that movie take place in? The new one, not the old one. Can you figure that out?
I'm thinking 80s once
again. It was like 80s or 90s. Yeah, definitely wasn't modern. That's for sure. No cell phones anywhere.
No cell phones, because cell phones would blow holes in all of those plots.
Right. I mean, even if you're out in the middle of wilderness, you still get signal.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting. And that's kind of the interesting part of this is nostalgia is kind of one of those weird things that you can get about something. Now, did it make me nostalgic for the original Pete's Dragon? In some weird way, yeah, because I didn't really... it made me miss the original, I guess you would say.
Well, plus I think the villain in the original, he went on to do the audiobooks for the Harry Potters. He did all the voices.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what he's most famous for.
That's interesting.
He even did the voices. Hermione. Harry. Go ahead.
But what I was going to say is, it made me nostalgic for some things, like, when my son was young. It made me kind of nostalgic for that. The road
Watching
trips.
Pete's Dragon?
The new one, not the old one. But yes, the new one. Not the old one, no. It didn't make me nostalgic for anything because I haven't watched it in ages. It also made me nostalgic, and you probably could relate, to being a kid on a road trip in the car. Because that was kind of the whole point of it. A sense of loss of family. If you ever lost a family member, it talks about the loss of a parent. That's huge nostalgia right there. Mostly depressing nostalgia, mind you, but it's still there.
Disney.
It's still gonna...
a Disney movie, a parent's dying.
Yeah, there's always somebody dead, right?
Yeah.
The other piece of it, which is where my fiance got, teared up a little bit, was the whole sense of the animal. Because it's interesting. One of the big points I thought was, again, spoilers alerts, if you haven't watched the movie, then watch it, is that the original Pete's Dragon was human thought process without the ability to speak. He was human in the sense that he had a higher level of cognitive function. He could talk in a sense. Even though you didn't understand him, Pete did. Again, leading to your theory that he was not there to begin with, whatever, or the kid was magic or whatever.
The kid brought him into existence.
Right. Where this one was not human in the sense of his mental capacity. He was highly functioning dog, basically. And you ever have a dog? You ever lose a dog? You ever have a dog that is sad when you leave it, or you had to go away? There you go. I mean, there's your nostalgia, big cakes, and that kind of got to her. If you don't like when animals get hurt, you're all going to get upset at that. It's not quite nostalgia, but it's definitely evoking an emotion.
You mean like the Benji movies?
Exactly.
Or Marley and Me?
I haven't seen that one, but yes.
But or like I Am Legend?
Yes. You gonna do more?
I was gonna just keep going. I was just.
That's all you had. It's all right.
That's all. I was gonna go King Kong, but really, did you really cry when King Kong got, That didn't make me sad. I know you're supposed to feel bad for King Kong, but I never did.
No, I didn't really feel sorry for him. I mean, I guess from my perspective, it was a giant monkey that shouldn't have been there in the first place.
He was a gorilla.
Yeah, whatever. And I don't think it was fair that he should have been there anyways. So for me, it was really humans' fault. So I guess you could feel sorry for him a little bit, but not excessively. But anyway, so back to nostalgia. So the
Okay.
biggest thing with nostalgia is the emotion it brings about events that you are revisiting something from the past. It's it's a sense of smell, taste, whatever. Now,
Ooh, mine would be Iron Eagle.
what?
The movie
You're-
Iron Eagle.
How is that? I'm sorry.
That would be mine. Iron Eagle. You're living on military bases. Every kid
Okay.
wanted to somehow want to save his dad from the terrorists, and the only way you could do it is by stealing a military fighter.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Okay. Trying to think of another one. Oh, the original Bad News Bears. Like when I watch that movie now, the original Bad News Bears, when I think of that movie now and I see it now, I'm reminded of playing Little League baseball in Arizona when I was a kid, and how serious it was. Like it was really serious back then. Like when you were on a team, you had to try out, and if you weren't good, you didn't make the team. It wasn't like you're automatically on the team because you paid for a uniform.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's kind of like that. It was like, and then once you're on that team, the kids on that team, they kind of become your friends. Even the ones you don't like, they become your friends.
Right, right. No, that's fair enough. And I think that's one of the interesting things is that for me, really, and again, Pete's Dragon was a decent movie. I like the fact that our favorite Star Trek Doctor actually played a quasi-villain, which was fun. But
I still think it's great that Robert Redford was in it.
Yeah, and he played an interesting character, I thought.
I mean, I would like Robert Redford sign on for this. This has got to be some meta stuff in here. I'm going to use meta a lot.
Yeah, that's just awesome. You and your meta. But one of the big things too with this is, what was the? There seemed to be bad blood there from the beginning. Was it all about the dragon, the bad blood of the dragon, that caused the brothers to not get along? Or was there something more to that? That was kind of an interesting subtext of the story. And the girl, the wife of the guy with the beard. Okay, who's the guy with the beard? He's been in something else.
Yeah,
he's been in something. Was he in like the Butterfly Effect 2 or no? He was
No.
He was in shoot. Wasn't he in Mockingjay?
Oh, one of the Hunger Games.
Yeah. He was the guy with the weird beard, mustachy thing, wasn't he?
You're talking Donald Sutherland?
Maybe not. He looks familiar though. He looked really familiar. Not the other Sutherland. No, the one with the black curly kind of beardy thing that was going up the sides of his cheeks.
Are you sure you're talking Hunger Games?
Yeah. Shoot. And I liked the girl. The girl was from Jurassic Park, wasn't she?
Yes.
She played Jurassic World. Sorry. Which by the way,
World.
I found out that that's going to be a trilogy as well.
Wait.
I just heard that today. I saw it as a post. One of the media outlets.
Oh, Carl Urban was also in it. You like Carl Urban, our favorite Doctor.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
You didn't say Carl Urban.
I said our favorite Star Trek Doctor.
But you never said his name.
Okay. Is that an issue?
Well, you should give credit where credit's due.
Oh, for God's sake. Anywho, my point was, I said there's a lot of famous people in it that was kind of cool.
Yes.
And one of my favorite musicians, which I don't know if it puts me in some weird category, Lindsay Sterling actually does one of the songs in the end credits, which I thought was kind of cool. And she also is featured in the soundtrack, the music that's playing in the background for some of the scenes. She's actually the violinist for it. So I thought that was kind of cool because I like her. She's cute. She's adorable. So anyways, nostalgia. So Pete's Dragon, not in of itself nostalgia, but it is a remake trying to bring about feelings of nostalgia, but going in a completely different direction and missing the cue on that. I think that was one of the largest reasons it didn't do well, as you were kind of saying earlier, was that it was so much of, it's Pete's Dragon. oh my god, it's Pete's Dragon, and then you watch it, and this is not Pete's Dragon. This is not Pete's Dragon
like
I remember.
right, and it's one of those movies like Pete's Dragon, the original one. Like you would watch that if you were baked. Like, hey, let's put on Pete's Dragon. You know what I mean? And it'd be like one of those things, and everybody be like, oh yeah, that stuff will trip you out. And then you start thinking about that. Like, is the kid making the dragon come alive? I don't know. I'm weirding out now.
I don't know about that, but okay, if you say so. If you say so. But
I'm also reminded about Pink Floyd The Wall.
For Pete's Dragon?
Well, no, about nostalgia.
Oh.
Because for that movie, anytime I see it, I'm always reminded about when I lived in Spain. Just for whatever reason, that just conjures up images, like, because a lot of it's shot over there in England, in London, and a lot of it's like factories and stuff like that. And where we used to live, we lived off base, and like a little ways away were like, these old factories and old, brick. They used to make bricks there, but they abandoned the factory, left the factory there. So we would run around there. We'd do hide and seek, or do like army maneuvers, that type of stuff, like we were soldiers. And it kind of brings me back to that. So like whenever I see that it's on, it's like I'm always reminded of like being over there in Spain. And I saw it as a kid when I was living in Spain too. It was one of those things where it was on a tape with other movies that came from the States.
Okay.
And it was like I was watching another movie, and this movie came on after it. And I just remember it being so weird. I mean, cool, but weird. And then I started talking to the other kids that were in my class, and I'd be like, hey, have you ever seen this thing about like Pink Floyd The Wall? And like, oh my god, that's so cool. And like older kids, like I would have friends, and they would have older brothers or older sisters, and they would want to come over and watch it too. So it was kind of like one of those things, kind of like reminiscing about and being nostalgic about, like, I must have been like in the 6th or 7th grade when I saw it, and I remember hanging out with kids that were like in sophomores. They wanted to come over and watch it. Yeah, it's like one of those things where you're with someone like more mature, but they're like coming over to your house to like hang out with you. You know what I mean?
Right. Did you get the girls that way?
You could say that.
Did you? Lucky devil. See, I can never get the girls through the music I liked. I always liked weird music.
Well, yeah, you still do.
Aw, thanks.
Well, you like the, Zamfir and the pan flute?
Well, only when I'm trying to relax after talking to you for too long.
Oh, jeez. So...
All right. I'm trying to remakes. So the remake thing.
The remakes. Oh my gosh. Well, think about it. Everyone always gives me an argument about the last Star Wars movie coming out as just a remake of the first Star Wars movie.
Well, that's fair enough, I suppose, but it is. I mean, it's sad, but it's true, and it's okay. It's a good way to redo a movie that people loved, but making it for both a new generation, but also allowing it to be ready for the transition to a non-Skywalker story, which is where it's heading. I mean, that, and the rumors are out that what's his name is probably going to die. Our big,
Spoilers.
Yes. Well, okay. It's a rumor. It's not a spoiler. We don't know it for sure. But in theory, Luke's going to die. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it's the end of a generation. So yeah, you're going to make some stuff happen there that's going to be sheer, pure, unadulterated nostalgia, and it's.
But for me, when people said that to me, like, after I saw it, I thought it was great. But everyone said, oh, that's just a remake of the first one. To me, that's a little mind. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't really use their imagination any more than that. Did it really feel like the first one?
It felt very familiar. And one thing Disney knows how to do when they do things well, unlike Pete's Dragon, which I kind of on a little, is play off that subtle nostalgia. everybody who was in the original was in this movie in some form or fashion, almost, unless they died in the first movie, or the last movie, or whatever, like Yoda. But everybody was here. All the characters were here. The pilot friend, the pilot, the airplane, the characters. Everybody was there. Now, some of them died. Some of them were different. Some of them were not the same. Like, you still had a Yoda. Just had big goggles and crawled around tables staring at people. It was Yoda. You still had a Mos Eisley bar. It was just on a different planet. It's the same thing. Same exact thing. Now, he didn't have a Jabba, but he didn't show up necessarily in the first one per se. You had other gangsters show up.
Actually, you did have a Jabba.
Okay, not in the remakes.
No, in The Force Awakens, there was a character that kind of reminded me of Jabba.
Okay, but he didn't play the character. He wasn't a mob dude.
We don't know.
Okay, maybe. We'll have to see what the second one brings. Maybe. We'll see if you're right or not. But my point is...
Oh, go ahead.
Is that it wasn't that it was the same. Is that it brought around so many memories that were similar to it that it seemed like it was the same movie. That's what it was. And people were mistaking nostalgia for a remake. That's my point. And I'm done now. That was my point there.
Yeah, you
I rambled.
Point. Yeah, you did. I kind of lost out. Like, I kind of like went meta and went to another plane of existence in your explanation about nostalgia.
Yeah, I hear you. Anywho,
the other remakes. Let's
yes.
go down it.
Cinderella, does it count still as a remake?
Yeah, it still counts.
I didn't know it was too old.
Beauty and the Beast. All those are all going to be remakes.
Yes, Beauty and the Beast looks good.
Remakes. Now what they're trying to. Here's the tricky thing about Hollywood. Now they're going to turn these remakes into TV shows, like Lethal Weapon. It's going to be a TV show.
Which I don't know.
What's the other one? Buckaroo Banzai. It's going to be a TV show. Mallrats is going to be a TV show.
It was hardly a movie.
It's going to be a TV show.
Awful.
Awful. Hold on. I'll keep pulling these. And this is just off the top of my head. Stuff that I've heard that they're remaking.
Oh, you know what they're going to come out with that might be interesting, though? Speaking of remakes. Cruella.
All right. 101 Dalmatians, which with Glenn Close was a remake of the cartoon.
Yes, we know. There was 2 of them. They all sucked.
Yeah.
Emma Stone might be Cruella.
Oh my gosh!
And it might be Cruella's story.
Who's asking for this?
Cruella's story. Look how well Maleficent did.
Another remake,
but not really. It was a remake from the villain.
I kind of like Maleficent.
Come on, it was. The point is it's a remake from the perspective of the villain, making the villain seem less villainous. Still a villain in the end, but less villainous. And might be what they're trying to do with the Cruella. But I don't see how they're going to do that because she's trying to kill puppies. You can't really do that. They're talking about making Maleficent 2. I mean, it did, over $700 million? The first one?
Yeah, I mean, you got to admit, though, it was and you know what? I kind of agree because even when I watched Sleeping Beauty, I thought the godmothers were annoying as well.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about another Peter Pan, too?
Oh, jeez. And I loved Peter Pan as a kid. And then they had to edit out the cartoon because some of the scenes are kind of offensive.
They were offensive.
But I remember as a kid, it's kind of like I remember those scenes coming, and I was like, you know what? It didn't really leave me with a lasting impression. But they edited those out in the subsequent releases, and now they're remaking them so that nobody remembers what the original Peter Pan story was.
Right. You know what I really want to see in live action? That Disney's coming out with? Or may come out with?
Gummy Bears?
That would be kind of cool. But no.
I'm done with you.
Mulan.
They already did this.
Mulan? No, they didn't. They didn't redo.
Yeah, they did it in Once Upon a Time.
Okay, that doesn't count. That's a TV show, and it wasn't the movie.
Oh, and let me tell you, the
It
TV show is
imitated.
a bunch of remakes.
Well, right, the TV show is. I mean, that's all it is. But they're test marketing this stuff, and if it does well enough. I mean, the Frozen stuff did well. I mean, they're also talking about doing a Tinkerbell live action, which that would be hot.
Really?
That would be hot.
My daughter loves Tinkerbell, and you're trying to pervert it.
That's hot. It's Tinkerbell. She's not a child. She's an adult. She's just a pixie.
A fairy. She's supposed to be a fairy
The same
that
thing.
views the world as like a child.
No. If you go to the Peter, no. If you go to the Pan, the live action one with what's his
Julia
name?
Roberts.
No. Yeah, that one kind of covers it too. They say she only has enough room to feel one emotion at a time. She's not a child. She only has room for one emotion at a time. She's actually just a hot-headed chick. That's all it is. And that's fine. She's just hot-headed. She's jealous of Peter. She wants to have him for her own. She can't. Because the one with Robin Williams, that was the one with Robin Williams in it too.
Yes.
So she wanted to have Peter Pan be in love with her and couldn't have him like that, as no woman could, because he was an eternal child no matter what. And that was why she was the way she was. There you go. I hope that makes you feel better.
I think it made you feel better.
I'm
Battlestar Galactica, they remade?
They remade Battlestar Galactica, the TV show. Are they
Yeah.
going to remake it again?
No, but I'm just saying
Okay.
that was a remake.
I actually like the remake better than the original, to be honest. I really did.
Well, now we're doing nostalgia. I grew up on the original.
Yeah, I didn't.
And like I had the toys. I had
Right.
the toys, I had the action figures.
But for someone like me, that felt dated.
I mean, it was the same people that did Star Wars. The exact same guys.
I understand, but I felt it was dated. But it isn't dated if you have nostalgia about it. Well, it's like I used to watch MacGyver.
Oh yeah, that's dated.
That's
You know,
dated.
did I tell you? Did I
But
tell
it's
you
still
the
a
episode?
cool concept.
Did I tell you the episode where I jumped off of that? I can
No.
tell you the episode. I used to watch that show religiously. The episode that made me jump away from MacGyver was when they were in the nuclear reactor and there was a meltdown, and he used the foil from the gum to seal up the reactor to stop it from melting down.
What?
I said, "That's it. I'm done with this."
That's ridiculous. I never heard that.
Yes, that was the episode.
Oh my god, that's awful.
I was like, I'm done with this, because the other ones were really cool. Like, he was inventing lasers with, like, flashlights and glasses, you know what I mean?
Right, some of it was cool, but
Because it was based on actual science.
right, they kind of went,
Yeah, and I jumped away from that. I think it lived on for a couple more seasons, but it was becoming more and more ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no, totally agree, totally agree. But I think the biggest thing again with these remakes is
The A-Team?
yeah. So the biggest thing with these remakes is it trying to
Transformers?
yeah again is it trying to just make remakes because it's money? Because they're trying to redo this? Is it useful? Like for example. They're talking about making a genie off of Aladdin.
Genie.
No, genie as in Aladdin.
Oh, I would never watch that. I watched the Ira Genie one.
No, you went. Genie, there might be time for remake. They did Bewitched as a movie, and that was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that, and I liked the original show too. Yeah, but I liked the remake they did of it. Oh, that was very well done. Will Ferrell, dramatic actor. Who knew? I only know him really for comedy. But the problem is I liked Aladdin, and I love Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin.
Well, that's the problem you're going to have.
Right. They're also talking about making it live action as well. Which, again, it's Robin Williams. It's like, can you really?
Yeah, you can't separate that. You can't separate that character from Robin Williams.
You really, and that would just be. I mean, they'd have to. I don't know. I'm just.
And I know people are going to say, "Oh, they did it with the Joker and Jared Leto." No, completely different.
Absolutely.
Like Heath Ledger didn't come up with the Joker.
No.
Robin Williams
was the genie.
came up with the genie.
That was all him. You know what might be interested in? Another remake that might be interesting, because I like the original story, is Red Rose that Disney's trying to do. Now, I don't remember if you ever read the book. It's a Grimm's fairy tale. And it was Snow White and Red Rose. Red Rose is actually Snow White's sister in that movie, or in that book. And they're actually thinking about doing that. That might be interesting.
I just remember in the original Snow White tale, didn't she make the queen wear like hot metal shoes and dance until she died at her wedding?
The queen? I don't think that's part of that one.
No, like the Snow White. Like if you read the original fairy tale, doesn't she at the end, like when she marries the prince, she makes the queen wear like these iron shoes and made her wear, and they're like burning hot, and made her dance until she died?
No, I don't remember that. I remember there being glass in her eye.
Glass in her eye?
Yeah, she saw the world darkly because there was this magic glass in her eye.
Hold on, let me see. I'm going to do a search on this. Snow White original story? Ooh. Grimm.
Yeah, Grimm.
The real stories behind these Disney movies will ruin your... Oh.
There you go. That's what you need. Ruin something.
The real story of Snow White.
So what is... You know what the ultimate, though, for nostalgia while you search up the info? The ultimate nostalgia movie, and it's every one of them, is Toy Story. I mean, bar none, hands down, you want pure, unadulterated, crying like a little girl. Well, not to insult little girls, of course, but, you know, bawling your eyes out nostalgia. I mean, whether it's you yourself remembering as it was when you were that age, or whether, you know, you're like us, old men, and have kids of your own who are either going to or are currently or have in their past, and you're like, that was my kid, and now look at him. You know, or that is my kid now, that's just so, like, freaking fantastic. And, you know, it's this weird sensation I sometimes can get from these movies where they animate inanimate objects. It's like, animate objects really have feelings? Is this thing real? And you get kind of all gummy in the middle parts.
I mean, for me, the Toy Story line, yeah, you're right. It touches on like a little bit of your childhood, like having those first toys, and then like getting a new toy, and then forgetting about the toy you grew up with. And it's kind of like, do you think maybe they have feelings? Like, do you think they feel like, oh my gosh, you know, my owner doesn't play with it anymore. I'm sad now. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I'm saying. And again, going back to nostalgia. Yay! Full circle. So, what did you find out? Anything useful?
I'm still reading the grim story of Snow White here.
Okay. So.
Okay. All right. After a short period of time, a prince traveling through the land sees Snow White. He strides to her coffin and, enchanted by her beauty, instantly falls in love with her.
Which happens so often in life.
The dwarves succumb to his entreaties to let him have Snow White. So basically, the dwarves are going to let this dude take this coffin that has Snow White in it because he's in love with her. Kind of creepy.
Yes.
The moment he lifts the coffin to carry it away, the piece of the poisoned apple falls from between her lips, and Snow White awakens, saying, "Where am I?" The prince then declares his love for her, I guess based on looks, and soon a wedding is planned. Snow White and the prince invite everyone to come to the wedding party, including Snow White's stepmother. Meanwhile, the queen, still believing that Snow White is dead, again asks her magical mirror, "Who's the fairest in the land?" The mirror says, "Thou, lady, art loveliest here, I ween, but lovelier far is the new-made queen." Appalled in disbelief and enraged, she decides to go, not knowing that the prince's bride was indeed her stepdaughter. She arrives at the wedding and sees that the bride is Snow White, who she thought long dead. She chokes with rage, falls down, and dies. But
Well, that's
Snow
how we
White,
all want to die. You're going to go out that way.
well, that I mean, but but Snow White and the prince lived and reigned happily over the land for many, many years. And sometimes they went up to the mountains and visited the dwarves who had been so kind to Snow White.
Aww.
This is ridiculous.
That's how fairy tales were. That's how it was. You know, that's just how it is. Which is funny, because we talk about the nostalgia of it, and you don't want to think about where a lot of these have come from. You know, and the original stories are so dark, but now it seems to be happening as almost a full circle, right? We started out with dark stories, they got them really light, and now it's almost like we're going back to those stories again in new version, and they're just as dark. I mean, like the demon from Fantasia, the big demon with the ghosts and all that.
Oh, you talk about Night on Bald Mountain.
Night on Bald Mountain. Would you want to see a movie of him?
Let me tell you something.
Creepy.
I thought my daughter would be terrified of that scene. She really isn't.
Mm-hmm. It's not scary anymore because people are desensitized. But the point being, this is really the point, is a remake
and that's one of her
that?
favorite movies. They already remade Fantasia.
Well, okay. No, remake. They're talking about remaking a movie about him.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too, I guess. But
that
again,
was actually the most metal, you know, of those.
And by the way, they did not remake Fantasia. That was
Fantasia
not a
2000?
remake. That was Fantasia 2000 was a continuation. Fantasia was supposed to originally be a once every 10 years event to be a what would you call it? What's the word for it? A platform to show what the latest technology is for creation of animation. So it's supposed to be a platform for that, a showcase, that's the word. Showcase of the modern technology to classical music. That was the point of Fantasia. It was supposed to be redone every century or so. If you remember the intro by Walt Disney's brother, I think it was?
Wait.
In 2000?
I thought his name... Oh, no. In 2000, it was Steve Martin.
No, it wasn't Steve Martin only, though. I thought some member of the Walt Disney family was in it.
Michael Eisner?
Oh, was it Eisner? I thought it was a Walt Disney family member. Okay, maybe. But one of them, whoever it was, stated, I believe, and again, I could be wrong, but that it was a whole... We want to demonstrate and have a platform to show where we're going with our artistic styles and give free reign to this. I thought that's what it was. That was a great idea. Didn't happen, because obviously there hasn't been one since.
You know, that was the movie that introduced me to classical music.
Really? You never had seen classical music before that?
I never appreciated it before. Just like, and this is sad to say, like you said that you're a big fan of opera.
I'm not a big fan. I just appreciate it.
My appreciation for opera comes from the Bugs Bunny. What's Opera Doc? I think it's one of the funniest cartoons ever made.
Wow. Okay.
Do you remember that one?
I remember it. I
Spirit Magic Helmet. You remember?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
It doesn't matter how old you are. You watch that thing and you look around the room and there's going to be somebody there like totally losing it, seeing Bugs in drag and Elmer falling for it.
It was funny.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny. It's classic. It's nostalgic.
The Barbara Seville.
Yes.
What was the other things in that movie, in that cartoon? Because it was a long one,
if
I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. It was almost, What's Up Opera?
What's Opera Doc?
Let's see how long that bad boy was.
And it had the animals didn't talk or anything, but it was like the Dudley Duckling.
Yeah.
And Elmer Fudd was kind of. I think this one was made to make fun of Fantasia because like Elmer Fudd was the conductor.
Actually references one of the 50 top things of all time, cartoons of all time.
Is it really?
Yeah. It says only like 7 minutes long, but for a cartoon, I guess that was long.
Well, no, that I think that's only one of them. I think there's like 3, because it's
well, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Yeah, that cracks me up. He's there like with the spear, shoving it into that
Yes,
hole.
yes, it was Ride of the Valkyries. Yeah.
Yes, and then it was the Flight of the Bumblebee, and it was the ugly duckling, but he gets ticked off and he turns into like a World War II like fighter plane. Remember?
Yes. That is funny. Yes, you're right. Yep. That was it was a classic. It was definitely a classic. And it was originally launched, get this, and we're talking nostalgia here, July 6th, 1957. There's some serious nostalgia.
Hey, you know what? They still repeated those, like,
oh, sure.
after school.
30, 40, 50 years later, they're still, I mean, it's hilarious. And I think the biggest thing we have to think of here as we wrap up this glorious episode, because we've been doing this, you realize it's almost an hour?
Oh, my.
We've been talking? Oh, you know. But I think the biggest thing to say about nostalgia is this. The only way to invigorate nostalgia is to remake movies.
Oh, my gosh. I'm okay with some remakes. Some do need to be remade. You know what I mean? Some of them were like...
Yes.
You know, with the technology now, you remake it, it'd be cool. Like, I wish they would do Logan's Run.
You know what I wish they do, and a lot of people would say nay to this? I'd like to see a well-done remake of Neverending Story. A really well-done one, though. It has to be special.
You just want better special effects. That's all you're looking for.
No, I think that they can, if they do it and it hits right, that they could do the rest of it. There is a Neverending Story too. There is a second part to that movie. There is some part to the book. I don't acknowledge it. I don't acknowledge it because it sucked ass, but it exists. The book has 2 parts. I would love for them to do that with the movie, but you have to do the first one first. You have to bring it back. I'd like them to redo Labyrinth without the crappy ending, with them all dancing in a room.
The fact that he becomes the Goblin King?
No. That's fine. I just don't think they should be dancing in a room at the end of the movie. It makes absolutely no sense. It's ridiculous. And there's rumors they're making a second one of that.
You forgot about the remake of Planet of the Apes.
Those were fantastic.
I'm not a big fan of the remakes.
Did you see the second one?
Yes, I've seen them. I mean, they're don't get me wrong, they're enjoyable.
Yes.
But you know what it kind of reminds me of? It's like, what was I going with this? Somebody remade a movie recently, and it's like they remade the movie, but they only remade the action parts of it. You know what I mean? There's just more action. It doesn't capture like the original story. And I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Alice?
No.
Alice was good. I liked Alice. And the first and the second movie. I liked both of them, but not a lot of people did. But those are remakes. And those are pretty true, not 100%, but they're pretty true to the original stories of the books. Which, again...
when they remade the Star Trek, that's where my thought was going.
Okay.
They basically, they're not telling, like the original idea, like you admitted to it, Star Trek was a metaphor for, like, problems that are going on now, but set in space.
Right.
And in these movies, they're not doing that. All they're doing is they're just taking what would be cool, action, right? Let's take the action from Star Trek and just forget about the story, the sci-fi stuff.
Right. And again, I can't say often enough that a good remake is really about telling the story. Story. And you can't say to me that a good story, an original story, done well, even if it's a remake, and you take a unique, like, perspective or twist to it, will do well. It'll do well, but you have to do it right. And if you can't, like, go cheap with it. You can't just take an idea and kind of run, this is a remake, we're just going to do the same thing over. No, take something unique. Don't just tell the same story over and over again. And that's really kind of my challenge with the whole thing. Is that a lot of times they just remake movies to remake them without any thought to the real story or context behind them. So that's kind of my thought process on that. Did you have any final parting shots to nostalgia?
I think it's good. Every now and then I do feel nostalgic, and I'll pop in Empire Strikes Back and I'll watch it. I must, and I can't tell you how many times I've watched it in my life, but that just makes me feel comfortable. I think that's what nostalgia does, right?
It makes you feel comfortable. It really reminds you of a simpler, safer time, even if one never really existed. And that's what Matrix will always do for me.
The Matrix, which you did not direct.
No, I know. All right. If you will be so kind, remember to follow us: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all the usuals. Ernie, give us a glorious and nostalgic outro.
Peace out.